I just want to say hi. I feel like this group has not been together for a while, and it's the new year. How is everyone doing? Jeff, did you get anything good for Christmas?
I did. I got tickets to my favorite comedian, Nikki Glazer. Anybody that watched the Golden Globes on Sunday saw her in action. She nailed it. But yeah, that was my big present.
Who are you
I'm going with Derek.
I'll be honest, I don't know who that is.
Is that who's at Hard Rock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's great.
I love.
Go on TikTok. You'll see all of her monologues. She was phenomenal.
She's awesome. And I knew that I bought my tickets, and then I was talking to Jeff. Amy and I bought our tickets, and Jeff, he's like, oh, I really love her. And I was like, we should come, and we'll make like a date. We can hang out in like City Walk with our better halves before the show, and then go see the show. And sure enough, Santa surprised Jeff with tickets.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I'm your host, Paul Krieger, joined as always by my lovely wife who feels like she's having a bad hair day, Amy Krieger.
It's a bad day.
We got John Sakari, aka Big Fat Panda, with us.
Welcome home, everyone.
Senior Sales Associate for the DC Racing Markets. Coming you from Alaska, maybe, Derek DeBoer.
We're desperately trying to make it through this winter here in Florida.
You just got this video like 10 unlikes. And then
Okay, it was
the
38.
one person that always has to, for some reason, go after Derek, Jeff Haslam. with some, it looks great. I mean, it looks like you got a haircut, no hat.
Jeff and I also have the same shirt on.
We're twinsies. So.
Not on purpose.
I have Polynesian. I touched the wrong side of it. It's over here. There we go. But Happy New Year, everyone. We got the band back together. We're ready for some fun. And this week's topic, we are going back to basics. So we've gotten some comments from all of you in the community that many of you are kind of new to these shows or new to our Facebook community or DVC fan in general and are kind of interested in what Disney Vacation Club is. Maybe you're thinking about joining the club. Maybe you're thinking about renting some points, whatever that situation might be. We thought today, let's talk about what you need to know about Disney Vacation Club in 2025. And that way you kind of have some of that information and you're armed to make those decisions. Tonight, we're just talking general. We're just talking back to basics. As always, this and all of our content here on DVC Fan is brought to you by the world of DVC, DVC Resale Market if you're looking to buy or sell a Disney Vacation Club contract, Monera Financial, who can help you in financing that DVC resale contract purchase, and the DVC Rental Store, where you can try before you buy, rent some points, or rent out your own points for cash. You're probably listening to this video, and annual dues are due later this week. So if you're kind of scrambling last minute, DVC Rental Store, rent some points to help you pay for those annual dues. Derek, I wanted to throw it to you real quick. I know that at some point here later in the month, I believe Resale Market's kicking off one of their big promos to start the year.
We are, yeah. We're going to be kicking off. It starts on January 20th, which is the return of the Red Hot Deal promotion. So this is easily probably the biggest promotion that we do every single year. I cannot tell you how many people participate. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listings are sold each time because we have a certain number of listings where the sellers have agreed to go basically 10% below the current market value. So these listings go quick, and we've already got a ton of sellers that are ready to jump at it. So they're ready to go. So yeah, it's called Red Hot Deal. So make sure you head over to the DVC Resale Market. You can even sort and find them by going to listings and by status. And then you can click on the button that says Red Hot Deals, get them because they literally go extremely quick.
10 of them have sold while you've been talking, Derek. So there you go. No, thank you all for the love and support that you show for our sponsors as always. So Derek also had a great idea to kind of start off this show today, which was the first question I had down is, what is Disney Vacation Club? Rather than me tell it, we thought it would be fun to maybe go around the room a little bit, have everyone take about 30, 60 seconds. Jeff, someone comes up to you in the park and says, hey, what's Disney Vacation Club? What's all this DVC stuff on your shirt? What would you say to them?
I would say to them that Disney Vacation Club is Disney's version of a timeshare. However, that timeshare word makes people run for the hills. Disney's version is way better. You buy a certain amount of points. You can use those points for a Disney vacation and stay in deluxe accommodations.
That was great. That was like 20 seconds. You have time to spare. Anything else you want to throw in there? Or?
I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to,
Panda, you're in the parks a lot, and I know a lot of people come up to you all the time. What's kind of your go-to when it comes to DVC, and what would you tell them?
It's a way to stay in Disney hotels without feeling like you're paying for Disney hotels. Even though you are technically, it kind of feels like it's free because you're giving Disney your money anyway. I don't know. I can't say it's a timeshare because I've seen my family buy timeshare, and this is very different. I don't know. I feel like just, magical points come to you every month. Just keep shelling out your money, and eventually you'll go somewhere. Pretty much.
Amy, I know you do this about.
One thing that I say a lot to people is that, because there will be people at Monero that are like, well, what's the difference between that and, like my Westgate? And I always say something to the effect of like, well, DVC does hold a lot of value, so much so that you can sell down the road, if life changes, you can rent points if you can't use them, 1 year or whatever, but it has value there. But for us, I think it's just investing in our vacations, like not an investment per se, just prepaying to ensure that we can go back over and over to Disney.
You got some of Jeff's time back, so it was perfectly fine. I always like to default to the fact that if you are a family or if you are someone that loves Walt Disney World and you come here once a year or once every other year, Disney Vacation Club is the opportunity to essentially prepay for your vacations for the next 30, 40, 50 years or more. It is a great opportunity to essentially stay in some of these accommodations that you would only dream of. Grand Floridian, Polynesian, Animal Kingdom Lodge, things that you felt like were unattainable now become more affordable by joining Disney Vacation Club. I feel like Derek has gone through 25 years of training for this moment to describe it in 30 to 60 seconds. So I don't want to let him get away here without doing so. Derek, what would be your sales pitch, or what would be your answer to that question if someone came up to you?
It's the greatest thing of all time.
We're sorry, Annie.
It is. It's just like Jeff said, I always stress, hey, this is Disney's version of a timeshare, but don't run away. This is not your typical timeshare. You don't buy a week. You don't buy a room. You don't buy a certain number of nights. You buy points. So you pay for those points once. You get the points every single year. Pick whatever size room you want. Say however many nights you want to travel. If you don't go away, you can roll the points over. If you don't have enough, you can borrow points. But the point is, you're able to stay in the deluxe Disney resorts for what people pay to stay in the valued resorts. So if you think you're honestly going to take 5 to 7 Disney trips, renting Disney hotel rooms over the next, say, 30, 40 years, buy it. Because if you don't, you're going to kick yourself and you're going to say what every single member says every single day. I wish I did it. Yeah. Thank you. That's Derek at dvcresalemarket.com.
I think that it's important to note just how the membership has expanded over the years. Jeff is our resident owner of Old Key West. Old Key West was the original Disney Vacation Club property. As we sit here today, there are a total, I believe, of 17 Disney Vacation Club properties, and it has expanded to include so many amazing places. I'm just going to run down the list real quick, just so that someone that's listening to this for the first time realizes that they are buying into an ownership that gives them access to Disneyland Hotel, Grand Californian, Polynesian, Beach Club, Grand Floridian, Riviera, Cabins at Fort Wilderness, Boulder Ridge, Boardwalk, Animal Kingdom Lodge, Copper Creek, Bay Lake Tower, Aulani in Hawaii. You also have Vero Beach Resort. You've got Saratoga Springs, Old Key West, and Hilton Head Island. So not only just Walt Disney World, but you also have locations that are kind of all over the U.S. You can go to Hawaii, you can go to California, you can go to Disneyland, and all of those things are attainable through Disney Vacation Club. It is a points-based system. Jeff, can you maybe just explain to the audience a little bit, like what does that mean in terms of having points? What do you do with those points?
Yeah, so you buy a number of points. That's what your contract will hold. But like, for example, Old Key West. I just happen to have this up because, as everybody knows, I am the mayor of Old Key West. For a studio in the slower times of year, so we're talking about September, typically, in a deluxe studio that sleeps 4 people through the week, 9 points a night, weekends 13 points a night, or for the week, 71 points for the week. So, for example, my first contract I bought was 150 points. I could stay 2 full weeks at Old Key West each and every year for the 150 points that I bought.
That's awesome. Well, I think just for perspective real quick, let's kind of go around the room and how many points do each of us own?
I'm really hung up on the mayor thing. I really want to elect a mayor now of each DVC resort.
For each resort.
Even if it's just symbolic.
Yeah.
Like Derek wants to be the mayor of Vero. I'm pretty sure.
Eric, how many
Gotta be Riviera, right?
Yeah.
Panda, how many points do you have at Riviera? 150. So that was the direct total at that time when you bought in. Jeff, total now you've got.
I'm currently at 375, although I hate to say this out loud, but some points they're on the market. They're under contract thanks to Derek over here. So that number is going to drop down to 150, but then I've got my eye on some poly points to bump that back up.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that makes sense. You're a local now, so it makes sense to kind of offset that a little bit. Derek?
I have 170 that I bought back in 1999. And it's a funny story because I remember when we took the tour, they were like, okay, the minimum is 150, blah, blah, blah. He gives us the price sheet, our gift, and he leaves the room. And Annie and I were super young. This was forever ago. And we were like, I don't know, what should we buy? And then we're kind of like, I don't know. Well, I don't want to seem cheap. So I don't want to buy the least amount. I don't know. I guess we'll buy like 170.
I don't want to seem cheap.
No other reason than that we didn't want to buy the least amount. So we bought 170. And I wish we would have bought more because they were like, $70 a point for the board.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, don't say those numbers. Oh, boy.
It's boardwalk too, right?
Well, you all make us feel like the addicts in the room because we now have 5 home resorts, and I think both of us have lost track of how many points. It's 553. So there you go.
Nobody's keeping track.
But that's like years
I'm still stuck on the fact that Derek, the king of all Disney timeshares, hasn't ever been afflicted with add-on-itis.
right.
At Vero
He's
Beach.
had that
At
same
Vero Beach, nonetheless.
contract forever.
Let me address that because I do get asked that all the time. When I worked for Disney, the Disney Vacation Club guide years ago, for a long time, we would have, of course, sales awards each and every year. I was blessed enough for many years in a row. And part of those awards that you got each year was literally, hey, here's 150 one time. You got to use them this year. Vacation Club points. So for years, when I was at Disney, I was literally living off of 320 points. And when I, left Disney and I stopped getting those 150 free points is when it kicked in and we're like, oh my God, we only have 170 points. So we've been living for a long, long time. So
That's wild that they gave you guys points to use. I think that's really cool.
That's the only award I cared about. I was like, I got to work hard because I got to make some magic because I need those 150 points.
Wow. We're actually at a point now where we do rent some of our points each year to use for cruising.
Yep. So offsetting some annual dues, but also utilizing some cruising. But it's also something that I don't want to part with because you never know when you want to maybe utilize them for a 1-bedroom for a week or a 2-bedroom for a week. You've got deluxe studios, your baseline accommodation for Disney Vacation Club. Then you have 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and then all the way up to 3-bedroom grand villas. Obviously, those increase when you're kind of moving up that ladder in the point cost per night that it's going to cost you to stay in those rooms. So I always like to sort of say it's a very personal decision as to how many points will be appropriate for you and your family. And that's why it's important to always discuss that with a Disney Vacation Club guide, whether that be direct or resale. We'll get to what that means in a second. But always engage those people in that conversation so that you can look at the point charts, as Jeff said, and plan out what does it cost to stay for a week in the place that I want to own at, or that home resort, or the place that I'm going to be utilizing those points the most. I hit on direct versus resale, and I'm going to throw it back over to Derek to walk us through the differences a little bit because he's lived on both sides of this. He was a direct guide for many years with Disney Vacation Club. That's where he got that snazzy polo that he is wearing right now, I'm pretty sure. And then he is now with the DVC resale market. So take us on that journey, Derek, just explaining to someone the difference between that direct and resale.
Yeah, that's probably the most common question that we get at the DVC resale market is, hey, I took a tour in Florida. I learned about this club and all of a sudden I Googled it and you guys came up as the number one company. So what's the difference? Why would I buy from you versus buying direct from Disney? Obviously, the first one is price. I mean, you're literally going to save 30 to 50% buying your points with us at the DVC resale market versus if you buy them with Disney. I want to stress you are still going to use the same member website You're not going to be sent to some bootleg site to resale members. It's literally the exact same Disney Vacation Club member website, the exact same phone number to call. However, there's two key differences. The first one, resale points can be used at the 14 original Disney Vacation Club resorts. So like Paul said, there's 17 now. You could use them at the 14 original, including the new Polynesian Tower, which is great. And then second difference, you don't get any, and I think Panda's going to maybe touch on these, any of the quote unquote member perks, private member events like Moonlight Magic. You do not get that when you purchase on the resale market. So again, that's why the research is just so important. Take your time. Don't buy in the middle of being, drenched in pixie dust while you're on vacation and you took a tour at the new Polynesian Island Tower. I don't blame you. I'm sure they're sitting there. These people tour that and go, oh my God, I have to buy this. Just slow down, breathe. Do your research. It's the best club on the planet Earth. If it works out for you to buy direct, if some of those reasons are important to you, then buy direct. We just want you to be a member. But a lot of folks do their research and say, hey, you know what? Disney's selling Polynesian points, for example, for $225. Well, I could buy them, with Derek over at the DVC resale market for like $160, $170. So I'm going to save a ton of money. So those are really the two main differences. 14 original DVC resorts, not Riviera, Disneyland Hotel out there in California, or the cabins, Fort Wilderness, and none of the little member perks or discounts.
Yeah, I feel like it's always like, would you buy a car sight unseen? I always use the situation that happened with Amy's uncle, which was that he ended up being driven onto the car lot in a taxi because his old car didn't work. And so he had to buy a car that way. But in today's day of age, there's so many opportunities to educate yourself about why you're buying. So, Derek, you hit the nail on the head where it's like you do get wrapped up in the pixie dust and the magic of being at Walt Disney World. And you maybe have an emotional experience or a memory with your family that happens. I always just say, take a breather. It may still be what you do. Get the guide's name, go on the tour, do all of that kind of stuff, get the numbers, come home, think about it, make sure it makes sense. Because this is quite a financial purchase. We're not talking about a small purchase. I mean, even in its most basic form, you're looking at, probably spending, if you're looking at like 100 to 200 points, at least what? Anywhere between $20,000 to $35,000. I mean, it really just varies depending on where you're buying and what resort you're buying at. So this is not just a small purchase that you're making. And so take the time to educate yourself. And I don't say that really to sway people on the resale market. I say that mainly just because you want to make sure you know what you're getting. I think I've talked to so many members over the years that have been frustrated over what they bought. They didn't know what they bought. They bought back when Old Key West first went on sale, and they've actually never understood the club the entire time that they've been in it. And points have expired and points have been wasted. And it's like, I feel so bad for those people. That's like why we make this show. We want you to understand what you bought so that you can be happy about using it and not frustrated all the time. It's just a big component of why I think you need to sit down, make those decisions. I've said this many times before, but I think most of members are eventually going to become a hybrid member that are both direct and resale. You're going to have that direct contract because you are wanting some of those additional benefits, the ability to stay at some of those resorts that Derek mentioned that are not included in a resale purchase, or the ability to go to things like Moonlight Magic. Panda, I know this was a big decision as to kind of why you bought direct. Talk a little bit about, the FOMO and kind of what threw you over the edge there.
You hit it. The FOMO, the fear of missing out, is what I was scared of. And I was very educated because I was listening to Amy and Paul talk about it. So I was very educated, knowing I'm making the completely wrong decision. I knew I was about buying direct. In my mind, I couldn't miss out on the possibility of going to something they were offering that, now, I don't even try now, which is weird because that's why I bought it. I will tell you, I like going to the lounges. I'm thrilled they're building one in the Magic Kingdom, but I'm paying, $10,000 to have a free Coke. That's not very smart. So I get it. I totally think I would definitely buy resale if I'm buying again. I think I planned that too. I wanted to be in the Disney, the ecosystem, and be able to show my blue card that's not really blue, and I thought it was. But stuff like that. Yeah, it's fear of missing out. It wasn't a smart decision that I made, and I know that, and I would definitely buy resale going forward.
But hold up that snazzy gold bottle that you got. It's so pretty.
If it's $10,000, yeah. It's actually a really good bottle.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
really
real
good stainless
gold,
steel
ladies and
bottle.
gentlemen, real gold. So, but yeah, I mean, direct versus resale is a decision that as you first join, you have to make. If you were doing this again, would you do it the same way that we did it?
I don't know that you can say we did either first. We kind of did them at the same time. Yes, I would not change the fact that we bought direct because we were grandfathered in such a low amount. We were grandfathered in at 50 points. It was actually 25, but because we were still in progress on our resale purchase, we didn't actually close yet. So we were still considered new members. So the minimum was 50 to buy in. But if I could go back in time, there's lots of things I would have done differently. I would have diversified a little bit. We bought the same resort twice in the beginning because we didn't know. So our direct and our resale was both at Animal Kingdom, which I like, but I would have done like maybe one Bay Lake and Animal Kingdom. I would have diversified that a little bit. And I probably would have bought more resale. Just looking back at the prices back then, if you had a time machine, you could go back and get prices that Derek bought Boardwalk for instead of what we
The
bought
good old-
Boardwalk for, which
Good
is
old days.
painful.
Yeah. And we always say that because everything has gone up with inflation. It's not that it's really any more expensive. The cost of staying in these hotels has gone up in general. It's just, if you got in back when it was $60 per point, when the original Old Key West people got in, those were the glory days for
49.
sure.
49.
Thank you
Even
for
like-
sucking my soul out of me even more there, Derek.
But even somebody like me that bought Riviera, 2 years ago, I still feel like Old Key West is such a great value for the use of my points. So, I mean, are we locking in prices when we buy DVC? Kind of.
Hedging against inflation.
I can't imagine like looking back 10 years from now, I'm going to be thrilled that I bought when I did rather than waiting because now I can still go to Old Key West for the next, 40 whatever years
Well,
10 years.
and that's
But
a
look
good-
at the
That's a good point, Panda, because one thing that we have talked about on this show that new listeners might not have heard is when we say locking in at today's prices, your contract is what you pay for it. If I bought 150 points at $95 a point, that's what I paid. That price can never change. Yeah, your dues might trickle up over time, and they will trickle up, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but you bought at that price. Meanwhile, Disney hotel rooms over the last 10 years have gone up like something 200 and something %. I can't remember the exact number, but I remember when we first started going to Pop Century and All-Star Movies back in 2009, 2010, we were $99 a night. It was great. Now you can't get in for less than $250. So you are locking in to a degree,
Yes.
your today's prices, because what you pay for your contract can never go up in price.
Jeff, that is such a perfect thing because I remember when I would help folks learn about Disney Vacation Club on the cruise ships, the favorite part of the presentation that I used to do for guests was saying, can anybody guess how much did it cost in 1971 when this new place called Walt Disney World opened? How much was it to stay in this futuristic looking hotel called the Contemporary? People would shout out numbers and say 100, 200, blah, blah, blah. And you tell them and you go, in 1971, $29 a night. That's how much it was. And then you tell people and say, listen, so what if you were in 1971, if you could go back in time and someone told you and said, hey, how would you like to lock in that rate, right, for the next 30, 40, 50 years? And everybody would go, well, of course I would. You'd be stupid not to do it, is what Disney Vacation Club is. And the reason is those point charts, because every mast and people go, oh, I get it. So I'm looking at the point chart. So now this studio is 10 points and I'd say in September, but let me guess, in 3 years, it's going to be 30. And then in 5 years, it's going to be 50 points and above. No, because that total number of points assigned to each point chart can never, ever, ever, ever increase. So if anything goes up by 1 point on that point chart, then something else goes down by 1 chart. Just exactly like Panda said, it doesn't matter when you bought. So those Old Key West folks, right, that bought for $49 a point, they're using the exact same point charts that everybody buying direct from Disney today paid $225 for. Everybody uses the same point chart. It just comes down to when did you buy and how much did you pay for your points. That's
Yep.
Well,
I've
and
looked
really
at the
quick,
Riviera
before we
that
move, I just wanted to hit one more thing about the direct versus resale. We always get that there's always that comment. We're trying to push resale. We're trying to push resale. There is a downside to resale that we haven't talked about that we should talk about. And that's takes a while to get those points. You know what I mean? Like if you do direct through Disney, If I did it right now, I'd have my points probably today, maybe tomorrow morning. Resell 60 days, maybe 90, depending on a few things. So if you're one of those that likes that instant gratification, you have to keep that in mind.
Yep, for sure.
He's been honest about, do what you got to do, but here's the differences. I don't feel like we're pushing too much.
No, all of us in our own right are a hybrid member. We all have direct contracts. If we really want to get technical, Derek, your contract is direct.
Derek doesn't even own any resale.
Oh, that was great. We'll come back to, I know we touched on annual dues a little bit there. That is a component that you need to consider when you're kind of factoring this in financially. We've talked about points a lot, and I want to explain to those of you listeners out there that are unfamiliar with what this concept is. If you compare it to like a traditional timeshare, so traditional timeshares normally, back in the day, it was you would buy a week. So you would buy this vacation week, and that would always be your week when you went. Disney Vacation Club works a little bit differently, in which sell you a certain number of points, and then you can use those points however you want, whenever you want. Now, there are some guidelines into how and when you use them. First and foremost, a discussion that we've not had is you are buying at a specific home resort. You are buying at one of these properties, not all of these properties. So when Amy and I say that we originally bought 160 points, we bought 160 points at Animal Kingdom Lodge. That was the property that attracted us. We wanted to see giraffes on our balcony in the morning and sit there and drink coffee and enjoy ourselves. So we bought 160 points at Animal Kingdom Lodge. By buying there, we got what was essentially a priority booking window. What that means is that anywhere from between 7 months from today and 11 months into the future, I can utilize my points to book a room at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Only me and the owners of Animal Kingdom Lodge can actually do that within that 7 to 11 month period. So we are the only ones that can book rooms. Now, yes, there's going to be very popular timeframes in which it may be a little bit more difficult to get the exact room that you want. But for the most part, having that home resort priority is why we have said for years, buy where you want to stay. Buy that place that makes you happy so that within that 7 to 11 month window, that is where you will be booking your property and staying there, and you've got that vacation in hand. The awesome benefit of Disney Vacation Club as well is that once we get inside 7 months, it's like a free-for-all. You can take those points and use them at any Disney Vacation Club property, subject to the restrictions that kind of Derek outlined a little earlier when we talk about resale. If you're a direct owner, you don't have those restrictions with your points. You can basically utilize them at any Disney Vacation Club property within that 0 to 7 month window. Now, it does become highly competitive within that time frame. So there are rooms and resorts that do get booked up because there are a finite number of rooms in these properties. There are only so many deluxe studios. There are only so many one bedrooms. When those book up, they become unavailable. But you do have the ability to make a wait list request and hope that maybe that comes through. But you first off, get that room that you want within that 7 to 11 month window. We always tell people plan out as far as possible. I think that, Jeff, you probably were the same way that we were when we were not down here in Florida, which was that we had a spreadsheet and we were planning years out into the future as to how we were going to use our memberships and how we wanted to use these points so that 11-month window hit, we were booking what we wanted.
Yeah, so I'm actually the exception to this rule because I have not one time since I've owned my DVC contracts booked at 11 months, not a single time. My job affords me a lot of flexibility. And so I usually, honestly, 4 to 5 months is typically when I plan my vacation because I like to have my airfare first because that's typically when the cheapest airfare is around 4 months.
One of the benefits of being a mayor of your resort.
And so I took a different approach than most people counsel you to do when it comes to DVC. And I didn't buy where I wanted to stay. I bought for value. I bought at the time the cheapest points I could get my hands on because if you're flexible and if you don't want to go at a certain time at a certain resort, for example, Crescent Lake Resorts, Boardwalk Beach Club, very, very popular around Food and Wine Festival. Magic Kingdom, well, they're popular all the time, but especially around Christmas and Halloween. I'm fine staying at Saratoga Springs. I'm fine staying at Old Key West. I'm fine staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge in a 1-bedroom rather than the cheap value rooms. For me, it didn't matter because I was an all-star guy. So anything is an upgrade from what I was used to. And my points were half as much as Panda's were to stay at the same resort. And so I went a different route. That worked for me because I didn't care where I stayed. I had never, not once, set foot in a deluxe Disney room. So I'm fine with it. I'm still fine with it. I find myself at Old Key West all the time. It's my favorite resort. There's a reason I'm the mayor. And I've been able to stay at every single Disney Vacation Club property since I bought. So I haven't had trouble using my membership, even though I don't plan at 11 months out.
Yeah. I think the key for Mayor Jeff is ultra flexibility. So either you're going to plan in advance because you know exactly what you want and you know the exact dates that you need, or you're going to be super flexible. If the dates don't really matter, if the room category doesn't really matter, if the resort doesn't really matter, then you can be more of a last minute planner with DVC.
Yep, for sure. When we talk points as well, it's important to clarify that you will have a number of points that it will cost you per night to stay in a property. And if you decide, hey, this year I want to maybe splurge and go a little bit above and beyond and stay in a 1-bedroom or stay somewhere else, the other flexibility that Disney Vacation Club builds into this system is that you can bank points from 1 year to the next year, or you can borrow points, the perpetual state that Derek is in with his points, from a future use year. Now, you can only do these on 1 year of this year. So if today we're in 2025, I could have banked my 2024 points into 2025, and I could have borrowed my 2026 points back to 2025. So cumulatively, at any given time, you've got 3 years worth of points to work with. It is dangerous because then you get yourself into this state that Derek is in, and somehow he has resisted the urge to add on. But if you are like Amy and I, who apparently, if Jeff is the mayor of Old Key West, we're like the mayors of owning a lot of points. We just keep adding on, and we are in a perpetual state of add-on-itis rather than a perpetual state of banking and borrowing.
To be fair, we own a small amount of points at like 3 of them. So we're more like the village.
Don't try to justify
idiots at like like the Grand Floridian Boardwalk.
I have a friend who gets hungover anytime he drinks, and he always tells me, when I say, well, then why do you drink? He says, I'm borrowing happiness from tomorrow. So that's how I feel what I'm doing now, because I did borrow some points.
He's right here. He can hear you.
And with the DVC, he's borrowing his happiness from next year. Perpetually.
I'm still in January, Jeff. It's still January.
Dry January.
So Panda, you borrowed points this year? Or? Yeah.
I did, to do the Vero Beach, which, by the way, don't ever say never. People wanted to go around Memorial Day, and there's a 2-bedroom at Vero Beach available for 2 nights on Memorial Day, starting on Memorial Day. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so also, things change. I'm like Jeff, where I've never booked 11 months out, even though I bought at Riviera. But then Jollywood Nights pops up, and I know pretty much what weekdays Jollywood Nights is going to be. So now I do want to book 11 months out to get a 1 or 2 nights at Riviera for a Jollywood to take the gondola over. So things can change too. And it's a lot of years you're going to have your points. So just keep that in mind too, that your plan may go differently.
Yeah, we're doing an upcoming show too about expiration dates, because it's important to note that every single one of these properties essentially does have an expiration date. That date can be as early as 2042, which is only about less than, 20 years away at this point. And then it can be as high as, what's the current expiration dates? Like 2070, I think. I believe.
Whatever Disneyland is the furthest out.
Yeah, I did have
this. I should know this.
Because we're filming a show right after this. So I've got that somewhere, but I just want to watch Derek and his glasses try to figure it out. So I'm going to keep talking for a second. But essentially, you will have this contract until that expiration date for whatever contract that you purchase.
2074, Paul.
And
2074.
It was great. It was a race between Jeff and Derek. Jeff, you won by a nose.
I win because the cabins at Fort Wilderness say 2075.
Oh, cabins. I didn't even think of them. Wow.
That is very true. But so you will have whatever property you buy. Make sure you know what its expiration date. That will let you know kind of how many years of membership you will have. And this is a deeded interest. So it's just like a home. This is going to be deeded to your name. I just looked up today because we just bought a new home to make sure our deed was recorded for our new home. It's recorded. I could also look up and see the deeds that are recorded for our Disney Vacation Club resorts as well. So this is a deeded interest, which also means that you can kind of pass that deed along to family members in the future. So I know a lot of people that buy points specifically with the mindset of giving each child or something kind of 100 points or something when they kind of grow up and have a family of their own. And I think that's a wonderful idea. So keep in mind that it is a deeded interest. You can sell it just like you can sell a house. And I think that that's important because, Jeff, you kind of kicked us off by using that word timeshare. And so many people are scared of it. If you're a John Oliver fan, he did a great thing on timeshares not too long ago. And, he talked about people trying to get people out of timeshares. And that is a real problem with most timeshare properties. My uncle owns a timeshare somewhere on the coast of Virginia. He can't sell it for anything. He will probably end up spending money to, Jeff, you own one too.
I have an RCI timeshare that we would have to pay somebody to take it. We've tried a couple of different ways to get out of it. And at this point, I just pay the annual dues in the hopes that the 5 of us are going to go to Dollywood next year or something.
I want to go.
There's just, you
I
can't
really
sell
wanna
them
go.
for anything. And it actually costs money to transfer the deeds and stuff. Ours is based in Vegas.
Could we get like a Winnebago and do like DVC on the road and just do a whole summer traveling city
I
to
am
city?
On board.
Derek
All
in his
in.
head is smiling, but he's saying no. He's definitely out for that
We
trip.
can't even get Derek to go to Disneyland. He's not going to get in a motorhome with us.
Right.
Oh yeah, we just got him to go to on the Skyliner last year, so we're slowly getting there, baby steps.
Baby
Halloween party.
A Halloween party, an after hours party, which he had swore off on one of these shows. You can go back in the history of them and see. So these are, you can sell these. It is very, if your vacation plans change in the future, it's something that you could do. Yes, Derek.
Paul, I just want to add, and this is in no way, shape, or form a shameless plug, but also if you're not going to use your points and you don't want to bank them, you can also rent your Disney Vacation Club points as well through our DVC resale store. So that's an option too. So FYI.
What store was that?
I said DVC rental store.
Okay. Yes, you sure did.
Fix that before it airs.
Nope, not at all. So yeah, you can rent your points if you're not going to use them for a certain year. Again, you can bank them forward. There's different opportunities too, whether you do it direct through Disney or you do it through a company like the DVC rental store. You could use your points for a Disney cruise. We actually just started a swap program for Royal Caribbean cruises, which is brand new to the DVC rental store as well. So giving you more flexibility. And that's where it's really, you are prepaying your vacations for many, many years to come. Jeff mentioned the word annual dues again. So I do think before we kind of wrap things up, it's important to mention that annual dues are a component of owning this interest. Just like my house will need a new roof every once in a while, the DVC resorts need annual maintenance. You're also kind of offsetting the cost for mousekeeping or housekeeping, whatever you like to call it. Staff for the front desk, the administration of the resort. If you own an Animal Kingdom Lodge, you're paying for the animals, transportation. All of that is a component of annual dues. So every year, January 15th, your annual dues are due for that specific property that you own, and you will get an amount per point and you will get a bill. So that is another factor when you're kind of putting things into maybe a spreadsheet, trying to figure out what is this going to cost or what resort is maybe the most cost effective for me to buy. There's an amazing blog over on the DVC resale market website. It's called The Economics of Disney Vacation Club. And they put that out 2 or 3 times per year to basically summarize based off of the cost per point, based off of the annual dues, based off of the years left on a contract. This is the best resort to purchase at this time. And that's a wonderful, for any of the people that live off of a spreadsheet and are really wanting to crunch the numbers to see if this makes sense, I think that's a wonderful thing to do, to kind of figure out which resort might be best for you or your family. I want to wrap us up today by going around and just quickly saying, who do you think benefits the most from buying into Disney Vacation Club? And who potentially would be someone that might not benefit from this program? And I will start with you, Amy.
Well, actually, we just talked about this, right, on our Q&A.
Yeah.
I feel like someone asked a question very similar, and we did a whole show on it. It was like who DVC is not for, something along those lines. But if you like going to Disney, if you go to Disney often, if you want to go to Disney often, if you enjoy staying in the deluxe hotels, even moderates, when you go, you're not like staying off property or mostly value. And if you are, willing to pre-plan your vacations, unless you're the mayor of your resort, DVC could be very, very good for you. It doesn't work very well for some people. It obviously isn't going to be for everybody. If you don't like Disney, or you don't go to Disney very often, or you're only a once every 5 years go to Disney type person, then you're probably not going to benefit from it. For a lot of people, if you can't plan in advance, especially if you have very specific needs, then that might not be a good fit for you.
Panda, you were pointing to yourself when I said who benefits from Disney Vacation Club the most.
I hear all the time from locals, I'm local, so I don't need DVC. And I literally want to no, you don't understand. Me as a local, again, if you're a local who wants to go to a hotel 3 or 4 times a year, the DVC thing is great because you have flexibility, and which benefits me. I can say, you know what, I want to go this month for a night or so. And you can look and see when it's available and just book it. It's been really good like that. Going to who may not benefit, like my sister's a teacher and she wants the specific Thanksgiving week every year. I think if she planned on, okay, I'm going to get the cheapest room every year, I think that she might be disappointed, and it might not be. The way Amy said, somebody who needs something very specific. But if you have some flexibility, even if you're local, I think it benefits you. I would like to go over the course of the year and look at everywhere I've stayed, how many nights, and add it up. It's a lot more than what I could imagine, I think. What the nightly rate really would have been and what I would have paid upon checkout. I can't imagine going over every year and then at the end of 10 years being like, wow, look how much money I technically saved.
Well, we always say this about being locals with annual passes too. Annual pass holders are probably some of the biggest spenders at Walt Disney World or at some of these properties. And even being a local, I think that we stay on Disney property more than a lot of other people as well. I did find this very interesting. At the most recent Condo Association meeting in December, in one of the meetings, there was a discussion, and it was brought up that per capita, Florida does have the highest number of Disney Vacation Club members.
I believe that because we
That's
financed.
pretty funny.
So the most Disney
Wow.
Vacation Club members are actually here in Florida.
Yeah.
So I think that was an interesting thing that was said in one of those meetings, kind of putting it into perspective. There are a lot of people that have ruled it out because they are local, but most of us are down here.
I would have said New York or something.
Florida's one, and then East Coast would be like the second highest, I would say.
Derek probably has a chart of like the top 5 states or something for DVC.
Local area, Chicago area. That's why they opened up that preview center in 2000 in Chicago, because there's a ton of members, especially right now. They're all dreaming about being down here in Florida.
Right.
We're complaining about it being 40 degrees down here, and it's like negative 27 off of Lake Michigan. So
I always get excited when I see West Virginia. Come on, because you don't see West Virginia very often as owners.
It's a rare one. Jeff, who benefits the most from DVC, or who maybe shouldn't be thinking about this if they're considering it?
Kind of echoing what Panda said. I think if you're coming to Disney, and now it used to be Disney World, but even now that they've added some property in Disneyland, I imagine that's not going to slow down. They've got some big plans for the California parks as far as expansion goes. If you're coming to Disney once a year or once every other year, I don't know why you haven't done it because you're spending money anyway to stay either on property or even off property. If you're coming that often, you really need to take another look at this. Don't let the price tag scare you. Take some time, do some research, math it out. It's pretty rare that somebody will come back and say it doesn't financially make sense. For some, it truly doesn't. But for most people, after they've run the numbers, they're like, man, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. For those that might not make sense, obviously, if you can't afford it, you know your financial situation. If that added cost is not something that makes sense to you, do what's right for your family. You shouldn't do something that you can't afford. Also, those that are very specific about the times of year. If you're a teacher, if you're somebody that can only come during school breaks or whatever, you got to know that you're not going to get the cheapest rooms at those times. So you have maybe some more points so that you can upgrade to a 1-bedroom because they're a little easier to get. But yeah, just be cautious.
Derek, since you do this for a living, I'll let you kind of close us out in terms of just what do you kind of tell people that maybe are going back to think on it? What kind of takeaways do you give them to kind of maybe make that decision a little bit easier?
Sure. Yeah. It all comes down to, and I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, is just ask yourself and say, honestly, am I over the next, say, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, am I going to go take 5 to 7 Disney vacations? Am I going to take vacations where I'm renting Disney rooms? Then you know what? Buy the club. Because honest to God, it's the best thing you'll ever do. And most importantly, you're just going to kick yourself if you wait. I cannot tell you how many hundred, probably thousands of folks I've talked to over so many years that all say the same thing, which is, I wish I did it sooner. I wish we looked at it on our first trip, and that was 10 years ago. And then we went back and took a tour. We thought about it, but no, we didn't do it. And then we found ourselves back at Disney again. That story, I mean, you could print t-shirts of it. Everybody has the same thing. So like you said, Paul, take the time. That's such a huge blessing that folks have now, is to be able to do your research. That's why we sold over like 4,500 contracts last year. It's because the audience is so great and they take the time to do their research. So they know, will this work for me? And again, it comes down to, you're going to vacation better. That's the bottom line. You're going to spend the money anyway. And I've said this line before, but it's so true. And it's the perfect way kind of to sum it up is, if you're going to take like 7 trips over the next 30, 40 years to Disney, you could have bought a membership anyway. But the point is, if you don't buy it, you can't at the end of that 7th trip, call up Disney and say, this was great. We love the trips, but hey, can I get any money back for all the trips that I've taken? I think we're kind of done with Disney. Of course you can. Oh, sorry, Al. So with this, you own it, right? So you own it. So again, you could pass it on to your kids to have, but you can sell it. So when you're done, go ahead and sell it, but most importantly, those trips that you're taking, you're going to vacation better. I know people that swear by staying at the All-Star people. And again, most of the members, I feel like, come from the value resorts, right? Because what happens is they started at value. They eventually work their way up to a moderate, dreaming one day that they can go ahead and stay in a deluxe resort. Our folks that join the club, they're staying in the deluxe resorts again for what people pay to stay in a value resort. So your vacations are better when you're staying at the Polynesian. Come on. And you get to, walk back to Bay Lake Tower at the end of a day at the Magic Kingdom and walk past all the people waiting for buses. And you sit and go, God, I'm so glad I reached out to Derek 6 months ago.
Well, that's a really good point. Before you finish this off, I've got some friends that are looking to go to Aulani next summer for their daughter's graduation. And I was helping them kind of navigate that. And they're paying cash for Aulani for a week. We figured it out, and it was going to be about $7,400 just for the room. Not airfare, not food. $7,400 just for the room. I looked at them and I'm like, why are you not buying DVC? That's half your contract. And I did.
Aulani,
like 3 contracts.
If there is anywhere that really and it's funny because Aulani really takes a hit on it's selling forever. And really it's just the distance. A lot of people don't want to fly that far. But if there really is anywhere where you can see the value of your points, especially if you're buying Aulani resale, because Derek, what's the average Aulani price right now? A point?
Between $80 and $100 a point.
Aulani cash prices are so outrageously expensive, and they can be because it is an amazing, beautiful place. I'm sure that the hotel next door, which is the Four Seasons, is also very, very expensive. So you can really see the value there. Those people just need to buy some Aulani points or something.
If you're considering Disney Vacation Club, you're listening to this show, I think 2025 is just as good of a year as any other year to buy into this club. There's some amazing direct resorts on sale right now. The Polynesian Island Tower just opened and it is gorgeous. There's so many different ways to join this club. So if it's something that you've been thinking about and just kind of him-hawing around, actually put in the time, sit down with your family, see if it makes sense for you. And if you have a question, reach out to a Disney Vacation Club guide. call Derek over at the DVC Resale Market or any agent over at the DVC Resale Market. And also subscribe to our DVC Fan Facebook group and get involved and ask the questions. No question is a bad question. We want to help educate you. That's why we do what we do. So get in those groups, ask those questions. Send us an email, info@dvcfan.com, if you really just kind of want to engage with us and kind of get our thoughts on something. So we all are here to help support you in this decision. I feel like we're enablers in that fact, but we just all love it so much that we know you're going to enjoy it as well. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the DVC Show. We will see you next Monday.